that he's ready for the start of the regular season. And right now he's certainly tracking to play in that game. And barring any sort of setback the next couple of weeks, there's the full belief within the organization that he will be ready. Is there concern over the back? Absolutely. It's a back. It's a 37-year-old quarterback. But right now, like I said, barring a setback, they do expect him to start and play in the regular season opener against the Houston Texans.
All right, Brooke, Adam's saying that they're expecting Matthew Stafford to be out there week 1 if he's healthy, which is a huge caveat, obviously. What are your expectations for this Rams team?
Yeah, of course. If he's healthy, I think that this is a team that can be in the NFC title game. I really love the addition of Davante Adams. To me, that has been the missing piece that they have just lacked. They needed another guy along with Puka that could be that explosive, add to that high-flying offense that Sean McVay loves to have. I was at that game in 2018 between the Chiefs and the Rams. That was just, I mean, they went toe-to-toe. Obviously, different quarterback, different guys, but it's still the McVay system. They needed to add more firepower, and I think when you add that complementary piece to what they already have in Kyren Williams, in Puka, and then looking at their defensive core, I love having Kobe Turner and Jared Verse. They have just a young group of guys. I think the sky's the limit for them. I'm expecting to see them in the title game if the back is healthy.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a big if he can stay healthy, and hopefully he can. But you mentioned the players that play on offense, the receiving core, and with the addition to Davante Adams, I look for this team. If Matthew Stafford plays the whole season, if you look at his numbers last year, he only threw 20 touchdowns last year. I see him as a 30-plus touchdown guy with all these weapons he would have. And they would be probably the favorite to win this division. The 49ers have an easier schedule. I get all that. But the way this team could play with all this firepower on offense, defenses, when they play with a lead, especially the Rams, they can get after the quarterback. That would be a big problem in the NFC West.
Well, the Rams are expecting Matthew Stafford to be out there week 1, and history's on his side because Matthew Stafford has never missed a season opener in his 16-year NFL career. Time now for some top stories. Adam, what's going on in Buffalo?
Josh Allen's not going to play in the Bills' preseason finale, Michelle, and this will mark the first time in his NFL career that Josh Allen has not taken a single snap in the preseason. The Bills close out their preseason Saturday at Tampa Bay, and they're going to give those snaps and reps to Mike White and Mitchell Trubisky, but not Josh Allen. No preseason action for him. Meanwhile, Caleb McGarry carted off the field for the Falcons yesterday. He is dealing with a leg injury that is expected to hold him out of the start of the season. Jeremy Fowler said that he's going to miss some time. My understanding is he's likely to wind up on injured reserve before coming back. It does appear to be a knee injury, and the Falcons will have more comment on this tomorrow night. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin is going to be activated after physically unable to perform less in time for the start of the regular season, but that is to ramp up activity and to get him ready to play at some point in October. He's coming off a fractured ankle that he suffered in Week 7 against Tampa, but the Buccaneers want him out there to be able to practice and go through reps, and it's the same thing with their left tackle Tristan Wirfs, who's on a similar return-to-play timeline as Chris Godwin. Wirfs is dealing with a knee injury. He had arthroscopic surgery last month, and both he and Godwin will be kept on the Buccaneers' 53-man roster with the idea of getting them ready to play in October.
Well, still to come here on NFL Live, after an offseason full of departures and injuries, could San Francisco's Super Bowl window be closing faster than we think? Someone here says don't count on bringing Jordan Renan, who covers all things Giants for us here. And Jordan, the rookie Jackson Dart has impressed so far in the preseason. How much do we expect to see him play tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. The expectation is that we're going to see Dart early and often, perhaps throughout most of the first half on Thursday night against the New England Patriots. Now, this is important for Dart in that we don't know when we're going to see him again this season. Remember, Russell Wilson is the starter, which is unlikely to see him today in this preseason game. And that means that Dart could sit perhaps the whole season, perhaps a few games. It'll depend on how Wilson does this year. Now, it's also important to remember something that quarterbacks coach Shea Tierney told me just this week. I asked him, what was the biggest improvement about Dart so far since the start of training camp? And he told me it's his ability to retain information and how he takes it all in, and how he doesn't make the same mistake twice. And then Dart, he noted how in the first preseason game they messed up a play to Greg Dulcich, a pass down the seam. Second preseason game, got it right, turned into a touchdown. That's how much his game experience means to the rookie. Now, another thing to add here, and something we should keep in mind, is how much Dart plays with the Giants' first-team offense, specifically their offensive line. We saw it last week in the preseason game against the Jets. It could indicate that the Giants are preparing to get Dart ready to play whenever it may be in the regular season, sooner rather than later.
Great stuff, Jordan. Thank you so much. Well, Coach Herm, they're getting him ready to play, sooner rather than later. You went through a similar situation with the Jets when you had veteran quarterback Vinny Testaverde with the first-round pick, Chad Pennington behind him on the depth chart. Take us behind the scenes. How did you handle that situation?
Well, I think how I handle it is going to be the same way the Giants have to handle it. If you look at their schedule, whoever scheduled the schedule for the Giants, it's not nice when you think about it. There's two away games against division opponents, right? In Washington and Dallas. And then they turn around and play Kansas City and the Chargers at home. So that's 4 playoff teams. If they struggle, this offense is kind of struggling after week 4. Let's say they're 1-3. You might consider a change. We were 2-5 when I made the change. We would sit there at 2-5, and I said, you know what? I made the change on the airplane. We had just played Jacksonville. We were flying back home. I was back in the U.S. We were talking all hands back there. We were talking to him. What's up? I said, Ken's going in. He said, really? I said, next game is fun. He's the start quarterback. And we ended up winning the division. Now, you know, if you're coach and you're looking at this, and I get it, you got to win because there's a lot of people on you right now. And if Russell Wilson struggles early out of the gates, I can see this young guy playing. This guy reminds me a lot, when you watch him play, a lot of guys. Big, strong arm, active, mobile, runs. I mean, Coach had that guy in Buffalo. He sees it. Everybody sees it. It jumped off the field on him. So, after week 4, we'll see.
Well, you're right, Coach. They certainly have a brutal schedule. And Adam, as good as Jackson Dart has been, we've heard head coach Brian Daboll say that Russell Wilson is the starter. What more can you share with us about the Giants quarterback?
Well, I think that is the absolute plan. Russell Wilson will start the regular season opener against the Washington Commanders. They'll have him plan each play the next week against the Dallas Cowboys before they come home to play the Kansas City Chiefs in their home opener on Sunday Night Football in week 3. So it's a daunting early season schedule, certainly. And I think they're planning on going with Russell Wilson. But everybody in and around the organization can see that aside from Russell Wilson being impressive with throws like this one, Jackson Dart is not even. He's got a certain electricity about him. He's become a leader early on in his rookie year, and guys are gravitating towards him. And I think he's been all that they hoped he would be and more. We all know at some point in time, Jackson Dart's turn is going to come. But really, it'll be up to Russell Wilson, the team. If they come out and play well early and win, Russell will keep his job. If they don't and they struggle, then at any point in time, they are open to going to Jackson Dart for that type of spark that Coach Edwards was talking about on the plane ride back to Kansas City.
You see, that's the difference. I just experienced the Russell Wilson experience, roller coaster, whatever you want to call it, in Pittsburgh. And in that, when they were winning and they were hot, the vibes were good. And then they started to lose, but Mike Tomlin stuck with Russell Wilson because he was his #1 choice. That was the guy that he put all his eggs in that basket. He wanted to bring him there. That was the guy, ride or die. And he didn't have the pressure of being concerned about his coaching status. He was going to be fine no matter what. It is so different in New York because we know Jackson Dart is their #1 guy. Yeah, they like Russell Wilson, but they didn't draft Russell Wilson. They know that Russell Wilson is not their quarterback of the future. And when you've got a guy like Jackson Dart that has this aura and this swagger, everything I've read, everyone I've talked to has just talked about how genuine and how just charismatic and captivating this guy is. You want to play for him. And so I think when you're the Giants coaching staff and you know that all of the pressure of the world is on you to get this quarterback decision right, and you've got a guy back there that wants this pressure, that is not making the same mistake twice, it's a lot easier to take the reins out of the hands of a guy like Russell Wilson, who still has an amazing moonball, but as we've seen, the decision making isn't always there. He's lost a step or two. He is not the same quarterback he used to be. It is easier then to pivot to Jackson Dart and give him the reins and say, hey, let's go. Let's be charismatic and get them out of the locker room and onto the field and into the end zone.
Brooke, you talk about the aura of Jackson Dart. I live in New York City. People are intoxicated with the idea of Jackson Dart being the future quarterback of the New York Giants. I sit next to Chris Canty, Giants Super Bowl champion, every single day, and he is pleading with the Giants to open their heart to Dart. Everybody's waiting to see what Jackson Dart can do with the franchise. We're just 5 days away from the NFL's final roster cut down day, and we've seen a bunch of trades over the past 24 hours. Adam, take us through what went down, and let's start with the Jets.
Well, Michelle, we always see a host of moves made as teams try to get down to 53 players, but we began to see trades yesterday, starting with the Jets officially acquiring 2 defensive tackles in trades, most notably Harrison Phillips from the Minnesota Vikings. These are 2 A-plus character defensive tackles who also can help out. They will be assets on the field and in the locker room. Meanwhile, the New Orleans Saints gave up 2 draft picks to the Denver Broncos for Devon Vele, a wide receiver. Denver has a surplus of receivers. The Saints wanted more help at the position, and the Saints were willing to trade a 4th-round pick in 26 and a 7th and 27 for a player that at times has reminded Sean Payton of Marcus Colston, who starred in New Orleans. And a team that has been decimated at the wide receiver position is the San Francisco 49ers. And that's why, in the end, they were willing to make a deal with the Kansas City Chiefs in a late-round draft pick flop, where the 49ers now pick up Sky Moore, who was unable to gain any traction in Kansas City, and now will have the opportunity to catch on in San Francisco. Receiver group, the only healthy receiver out there right now, and I even hesitate to say anything because so many things seem to go wrong with so many skill positions.